program, working with the state employees, trying to do the best thing for the people of the state. I think people are going to be glad that we did it. It was a risk for the governor, but I think it's going to end up being the right thing.
The usually liberal Denver Post editorial page a couple weeks back spelled it out. He said, this new unionization is really a boom for Democrats. If you go back to the 2006 election, unions put in about $4 million into partisan politics, and overwhelmingly, I believe 99.5% of that money went into Democratic coffers. Isn't this also really good for Democrats?
No, I don't see it that way. I really see it as being good for the people of Colorado. That you don't want to have conflict between the state employees and the state government, and this will have us. We're all working together, going in the same direction.
Do you really believe this is going to save money over the long haul? This is going to save my taxpayer dollars, as Bill Ritter believes?
I don't think it's going to cost you anything.
I didn't ask you that. Do you think it's going to save us money? You think that we're going to get new innovation?
I think we're going to get better quality services from the state because of it, because we're going to work as a team.
I could see the state workers saying, you know, if I don't get better, faster computers so I can handle these calls better, we're going to strike. Let's bring it over here.
Except there was no, I mean, the union, there's no traditional collective bargaining powers. Talks aren't binding. Any of these wage issues have to be approved by the legislature. I mean, I don't know where the draconian results are going to come from this.
Although when collective bargaining hit the state of Washington, their budget went up by about $1.2 billion over a 2-year period.
What Mark just said, though, is there's no collective bargaining in this agreement.
No, there's exclusive representation, however. So in other words, if a worker in Colorado who's just been unionized, if he doesn't want to be represented exclusively by this union, he has no choice. He doesn't have to pay union dues at this point, but he has no choice. Why didn't the governor bring this forward to the legislature? Why didn't you, as a senator, have the ability to weigh in on that? Wouldn't it be? I would like to know where my representatives were on this instead of doing it by an executive order.
Well, you know, we did get involved in this to the extent that one of the things that was being said was that unions would be allowed to strike against the public welfare. So we didn't think so. The governor didn't think so. But we passed a law this year that said that state employees can't strike. So we did weigh in to that extent.
But still, as far as bringing unions into state government, you guys didn't weigh into that. Why not?
I don't know. You'll have to ask the governor why he chose to do it the way he
did. I would,
did.
but unlike the previous governor, even when he and I disagreed, he would always come on this program so we could argue about it. Bill Ritter has turned down every invitation we've had over 2 years. Let's bring it over here. How does the union issue resonate with Coloradans? I mean, Colorado's not a big union state. It never has been. I can't believe it ever will be. Do you think most people agree with the gov on this one?
Well, as I said before, I think I think there's a possibility that this is a sort of a template. This is a thing that's going to hang over the governor's legacy on this. But again, I think it's hard. I think it's very hard to figure what the draconian effects of this are going to be, given the way it's. I mean, it's pretty weak in terms of what it grants to state employees.
I think it's a starting point, not an ending point. Let me bring it over here. Before I start laying on all the things that I think were mistakes, what was the biggest thing out of the 2 years that the governor has been able to lead us to? What's different now after 2 years of Bill Ritter that we wouldn't have had before?
I would say probably the emphasis on renewable energy, increasing the portfolio requirements from 10% to 20%, bringing in new business, solar energy in Alamosa, a company that makes wind turbines in Windsor, investments in Denver, companies that are going to do alternative energy. I think Colorado has an opportunity to really develop a lot of jobs, and that's where a lot of the future jobs are going to be in moving us to non-fossil fuel energies, because we're running out of fossil fuel. And
we're not running out of fossil fuel. In fact, the governor's making it rather hard to tap those resources here in Colorado. One of his new recommendations for rule changes would say that a quarter of the time, many of these rigs wouldn't even be able to operate. So we're going to lose some of that.
There's a
also
balance.
The Roan Plateau and all those other things where he's closed off traditional mining, traditional oil gathering. How is that good for Colorado's economy?
I don't know if you've actually driven around the state at all. We're having huge boom in drilling for oil and gas in this state. It's actually going on to a great extent. And what the governor is doing is trying to strike a balance between the environment and more exploration. And we're having a lot of new exploration in the state. We also have to meet this exploration also causes infrastructure problems and getting kids educated in places where their parents have moved. So I think the governor's hit the right balance on that.
on those new energy economy, and I hear this from the governor all the time, we're creating a new energy economy. I look at, for instance, I think it's Vesper, if I've got that name right, up in Windsor.
Right.
They make blades for wind turbines, for the pinwheels that make some electricity. That's terrific. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're going to employ people. I'm not glad that we gave them, between local and state subsidies, about $5 million of direct corporate welfare. My sense is if we gave that much corporate welfare to any other company, particularly one that made traditional energy, there would be riots from the left on this. And there should be. I would join them in that. Is it appropriate for the governor to lead a spearhead for corporate welfare to the new energy economy?
Well, the old energy economy has gotten a lot of corporate welfare as well.
Nothing near the size per kilowatt. Let me tell you what, you put, and I'll agree with you. I'll take away every corporate welfare policy we have for oil if you take it away for wind and solar and all the other silliness. But more importantly, when you look at it per kilowatt, per BTU, corporate welfare for these are outrageous. Defend it for me. $5 million going to any private company just so they'll relocate here. Is that the kind of Keynesian work we expect from our governor?
I think it's pump priming. When you start to develop a new industry and when you want to bring it to Colorado as opposed to other states, and it can provide jobs, tax revenue, and move us away from fossil fuel, which has environmental issues and also is a depleting resource, I think that it's the right thing to do.
And John Maynard Keynes used the exact same term, priming the pump by getting government dollars and putting them into the private sector. We just call it politics as usual. Let's talk about the energy policy. From your point of view, and I know you want to hide behind your blogger voice and all those people who write into you, but you can use your own voice here. So the governor on energy, been good for Colorado, been bad for Colorado?
I think on balance he's been good for Colorado.
How so?
Yeah. I think I'll defer to the senator on this stuff. I think he's absolutely right. I think that the pump priming in terms of getting new industries, I think they're working towards a real balance.
You really think it's government's job to decide what private industries will get massive corporate welfare checks? You really think government? You don't think $5 million is massive corporate welfare? I tell you what, I got a business. I wouldn't mind doing that too. And that's just one of many. But you don't find anything ethically wrong with the government saying, you know what? I like your business. We're going to give you lots of money to come to Colorado. It's not a big success when you lure companies in with big fat checks. I would rather lure companies in by having a low tax structure, by having a sound economy, not by giving away goodies.
How about having a good education system and a healthcare safety net? Let's lure companies to Colorado by having good roads, good education, and a healthcare safety net.
And we have good roads. We do have good education, unlike some of the rumors that we're down at the bottom of the barrel for funding for education. We're about right dead in the center. In fact, we have some of the most educated people in the nation right here in Colorado.
I didn't want to.
But I wanted to get back to this question of corporate welfare. So it's okay for government to use corporate welfare as long as it goes to something that feels good, like new energy.
I think there's nothing wrong with pump priming. Our buzzword of the day. I think there's nothing wrong with pump priming for new energy sources, for alternative energy sources, for reaching out. And I think that people are going to back this, especially every time they go to the gas pump.
So in other words, the governor knows what's best for the economy more so than the marketplace.
Oh, I don't know if the governor knows.
Well, of course so. He was up there signing away, giving $5 million and taking credit for it. All right, give me an example of where Governor Ritter has disappointed you. I know you're a Democrat, but you got to have something, and I know you'd like him to maybe float you a job in the future, but think hard. If you had to change one thing in the last 2 years, where would you correct him? Where would you give him a little advice beforehand? Say, don't do this.
Well, I think he's done a good job, but there's one thing I think we could have done. I think that I might have gone to the ballot on a health care proposal. I might have said, let's take some of the proposal from the 208 Commission and put it on the ballot and try to get people to get some more money to cover uninsured people in Colorado and get health care to people in Colorado. I understand that's a difficult thing to do, and there were a lot of reasons why a lot of people didn't think it was the right thing to do. We were afraid it would be a national issue, and therefore people